Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. So, mixed reactions to my permanent use of the dual screen in the previous cast. I did think it was going to be a bit like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it, and if the comment section is any kind of spirit level as to the feeling of you guys, the Guile cast community, it seems to be divided exactly down the middle. I really don't plan to make a habit of it. It's just kind of useful on certainly on games where there's a lot going on, like a 2v2v2, lots of different things going on, different parts of the map. It's a useful tool to help keep track of them all. Admittedly, probably could use the mini-map, but what is life without experimentation? Said a chap to me once at school who got me into trouble with drugs, but that's another story. On to today's game, Sopcom, that's what we're about. It's going to be a custom 1v1, and that action is going to take place on Theta Passage. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So at first glance, I actually thought this was a ladder match, the colours being what they are, but of course if you look very closely, that is electric blue, not baby blue, which makes it a custom 1v1. They were just trying to trick me, how very insensitive. But anyway, that electric blue belongs to the Witcher up here at the top right. He's chosen UEF, how very sensible, opening first land and keeping us guessing about where he's going after that. Let's take a look at our other player down here at the bottom left in the red corner. It's none other than Bembel. And if I hadn't already picked out the name for my firstborn, that would be a contender. Bembel, what a fun word to say, and I should be saying it as often as I can. Bembel has decided to go Seraphim in Ferrari red and open first land, and he's going 1 P-Gen on the opening. Now, we've seen variations on opening, especially on Theta, but certainly on maps when you have access to hydrocarbons. We've spoken about it before, especially with TA for Life, who I believe goes no P-Gens at all, just goes straight for the hydro. It is the most efficient way to open effectively when you have access to that early hydro. You are not wasting any early mass. Of course, you've got to be quick and have the optimum route to get to the mexes. There's not really a lot in it, and it's not going to hurt the Witcher who has decided to open 2 P-Gen. It's really not going to make that much of a difference, but certainly at the higher tiers of the game, early margins could turn into an early game, so it might be worth experimenting, guys. With your setup, you could always be better. But anyway, looks like we've got second, third, fourth, fifth land pretty much there from the Witcher. We've also got an air factory thrown in for good measure, and we're going second land there for Bembel and third air, so that's the setup for him. So it looks like both these guys potentially dipping a tip into the proverbial air game at the beginning of this one. Units heading southeast there from the Witcher, and it's a nightmare to see what they actually are. I have to zoom right in because of course, as attractive as electric blue is, it's so damn difficult to see the actual icons there, and I have no doubt some clever sausage is going to mention in the comment section below, Guile, why don't you use the strategic icons mod? Well, because I haven't ever remembered to put it on, and that's why. One day I will, but today is not that day. So first little bit of engagement there kicking off between Bembel and the Witcher. Tham comes through, gets knocked down by a couple of strikers, protects that engineer very nice indeed. He's going to grab that second mech, and it looks like he's queued up a PD there as well to boot. Meanwhile, a whole army of what looks like Snoops there heading west for the Witcher, 2 of them getting killed off immediately, and the third one could be in danger of getting killed off by a Tham, and that means now that although there are 2 strikers over here, they are without intel, and of course Bembel has the benefit of that Selen in the area, so that looks like initial trades probably going to go his way. Engineer trying to chase down that combat scout. Needs to be careful he doesn't get reclaimed, or attempted to do it. But the Thams are going to roll on up and finish off that engineer, so no more joy there for him. Bembel sending an engineer to the northwestern plateau, going to try and pick up those mexes, and it looks like he's queued up a whole lot of wall sections as well, wants to secure that as soon as possible. Meanwhile, if we head to the center, we can see a little bit of exchange has been going on for a while now. The Witcher and Bembel, ACU to ACU, facing off against one another. 7,500 HP remains on Bembel's ACU, and 9,000 there for Witcher. Of course, you get an extra 1,000 hit point advantage for the UEF ACU. So it looks like perhaps a potential couple of early shots fired while Bembel was reclaiming. The Witcher sitting on just 200 mass reclaimed, Bembel sitting on 650. So yep, early advantage is with him. Meanwhile, a couple of kills initially for that bomber, and then a couple more picked up as well. And that looks like that's mostly engineers that have been finished off in the main base. Another one goes down to another bomber. So Bembel doing good work in the early air game. And in fact, that early air factory has either been cancelled or the Witcher has changed his mind and decided not to go air at all. Engineer trying to wall that off after having got those top two mechs is not going to be successful. Down he goes, and now those two mechs up the top are in jeopardy. That is, of course, if the bombers don't get those units first, which is a good chance they will. No interceptors, of course, in the air for the Witcher at all. PD getting its pay earned for the day, killing off those two Thams. However, mechs taken down, so Bembel will settle for that. Selen's going to back up towards the passage there, and in fact is heading southeast with his ACU as we speak. Going to kill off a couple of the reinforcements that are heading that way for the Witcher. A couple of free extra kills there for the ACU. Doesn't want to hang about too much near that plasma cannon. Probably wants to kill off the mechs and get out of there. Does he have access to overcharge? No, he doesn't. And you can't blame him. It's only 6 minutes in. Not necessarily the first thing you get, but does manage to kill off the mechs. The other one was killed off in the earlier exchange from the other units, and that radar is down as well. However, counter push coming through the southeastern pass now from the Witcher. Two mechs is down. A third about to follow potentially, although bombers coming in and land force of substantial number from Bembel, but that mech is successfully destroyed. Witcher will be happy with that and try and back up towards the passage. A little bit of an optimistic PD build there from Bembel. Build capacity going to get slaughtered, I think. Will not be completing that point defense. Down the go, but still the harassment from the skies continues. Generated mass, though, eco starting to go the Witcher's way. 15 mass to 11. So slight advantage there. We'll go back to reclaim. 223 for the Witcher and 1,200 for Bembel. So Bembel kind of keeping pace despite falling behind slightly on map control. And you're starting to get the feeling that Bembel getting caught up in his side of the map a little bit. A lot of blue spread out up here for the Witcher. Does he have build capacity in amongst these things? The odd engineer kicking about the place. That's an archer. So hard to see. But certainly there are NGs around that will be able to grab these mexes. And Bembel's actually built a few inties there. He really needn't have bothered because we are still not seeing any sign of an air factory from the Witcher. So all he has to worry about for those bombers at the moment is archers or railguns, mobile T1 anti-air or static T1 anti-air. And that PD that's been pivotal early on finally gets destroyed. And we are starting to see the odd archer on the map now. The Witcher potentially sensing the air issue here. Hindsight, though, the interceptors, not a terrible idea. You can always use them to help scout. But that is a pretty sizable force heading through the southeastern passage as we speak. Archer killed off there, and I think that was the only mobile anti-air in this force for the Witcher, so could potentially focus that Bembel a little bit with his bombers, but he seems mostly to be prioritizing NGs and mexes. But Bembel looking a little bit overextended here potentially. The Witcher moving in from the west. A lot of units on the ground. And of course, these units heading up from the southeast as well from the Witcher. looking like they want to sandwich Bembel, and now we've got a bit of a converge order that's been issued from the Witcher. Bembel taking Lobo fire as well. He's on 8,000 hit points. The Witcher combating Thams rolling in from the west. He's on 8,700. A lot of blue in this area of the map now, but it looks like we are seeing some overcharges coming in from Bembel. Indeed, he has access to overcharge 9,000. He has energy storage, but the amount of power he's generating is light, so it takes him a while to recharge that overcharge. The Witcher, by comparison, still without energy storage. Might have tried to build it. It could well have been taken out by a bomber. Certainly at 10 minutes with this much emphasis on ground-based combat, he needs to get himself that energy storage and protect it ASAP, but hasn't managed to get Bembel down into the red. Bembel still up front on around 5,000 hit points. It's a very dense pocket of units here that the Witcher could take advantage of if he had access to overcharge, which of course he still doesn't. But still, Mexes on his side of the map under siege from these bombers, and got to be thinking like he'd want to go for a air factory at some point soon. It would be so much more efficient to deal with these bombers with interceptors rather than trying to chase them down with archers. But still, nice survival instincts there from Bembel, despite being very extended. I want to say overextended, but he was very close to being. Managed to get back amongst his own units. Take a look at the direct fire units on the map and how they compare. So we've got 41 strikers out there for Bembel and 22, so almost double the amount there for the Witcher. 22 Thams on the field for Bembel. Now, how far away are we from veterancy? Well, one more kill should do it. And for the life of him, he can't seem to achieve it. And there it goes, another chunk of HP restored. He'll feel a lot more confident now. Still, I'd be keeping my troops closer than he is. Tide of battle can turn very, very quick in this game. But look at that. These bombers just bombing the Witcher into oblivion. And Bembel with the actual advantage, despite the map control that the Witchers had. Bembel ahead on generated eco, 17 to 11. Which really is extraordinary stuff. Now we're seeing some T2 on the field, though. The odd T2 engineer, some pillars. What he really needs is some skyboxes on the field, some mobile T2 anti-air. At the moment, these bombers just circling with impunity. Now Bembel has managed to get a T1 PD stationed at that southern pass, and no Lobos in amongst these units at all. So the Witcher is going to have to turn tail and run, or risk losing all those units. Manages to retain the pillar, but only 50 HP left on that unit. But look at this. All of the base mexes, pretty much, with the exception of that one, out of commission. And now Bembel feeling like he can push forward with his ground forces. The Witcher way out here, and sensing the danger, the Witcher is going to come in and try and cut those units off from any potential retreat. The question is, does he have enough units in his main base to protect it. Well, I suggest he probably hasn't. Yes, he's got the odd pillar in there, but he's definitely going to lose the odd structure or two. But this is where the real action is going to go down. Witcher and Bembel, ACU to ACU. Bembel on 7,200, the Witcher on 7,700. And of course the Witcher, very unlikely to have overcharge, even if he'd built it by now. He's been under such sustained air pressure throughout. And he hasn't even got his hydro anymore. That's been destroyed in the recent push. "15 minutes gone. Bembel still ahead, but by a lesser margin. And then, of course, as soon as I mention it, he goes behind. Curse of the commentator. Bembel really needs to overcharge those pillars, get them out of circulation as quickly as possible, and he has access to overcharge as well. He must be busy elsewhere. There we go. That's what we want to see. And that little southern force of Thams and Lobos moving up the eastern edge of the map there. From Bembel getting back onto that top plateau. Bombers still causing problems. Land factory down in the center there, and the Witcher on just 4 mass per tick with 60 generated power. That is absolutely woeful. You can see he's bottlenecked on power pretty hard, but Bembel, taking advantage of his situation, has moved forward quite aggressively and left his base wide open. The Witcher now strolling into it. He's about to lose his power storage. Witcher definitely needs to deal with that T1 PD, and quickly. Down it goes. And down goes the energy storage as well. And I would suggest that a base trade is now what we're looking at and needs to happen ASAP from Bembel's side of things. He has fewer units on the ground and actually finds himself in a slightly more precarious position. He has transitioned to T2. We're starting to see the odd Ilshiva on the field. If I was the Witcher, I'd be wanting to shut that T2 factory down as soon as possible, which are actually on -1 mass. That's unreal. This is going to be very close indeed, and we're going to have to go to the split screen to keep an eye on these 2 different sections of the map. What is interesting is all of the engineers we have up here. So Bembel has already started working on a little bit of a proxy base up at the left-hand side. So he's not entirely behind. Down goes the T2 factory. That won't get another Ilshiva out. Witcher will be happy about that. Immediately starts scooping some of that mass. Definitely wants to deal with that T1 PD. For some reason that's not opening up on him. That is absolutely bizarre. The Ilshiva we saw earlier makes it up to that top base of Bembel's finally. But the Witcher has pretty much completed his conquest of Bembel's old base. Now, Bembel does now have a T1 land factory further up here, but he's definitely behind overall. As we go back to single screen, there's going to be a little bit of a period of building up here, but the advantage, I would say, now has swung back towards the Witcher. Always nice to see a base trade. The Witcher says this is pro. Oh, it's a little bit of an oxymoron. If you have to say it's pro, it kind of means it isn't, or it kind of makes it not. It's like when an Essex girl uses the word classy. Oh, it's very classy. Instantly makes it not classy. But definitely not knocking the gameplay. Been a while since I saw a decent base trade, and this one has been executed pretty well by both players, and it is going to be an eco race now to see who can get set up the quickest. Now, interestingly, the Witcher not immediately going for that hydro, spamming T1 P-gens instead. You only really need to get one or two of those and then just go straight for the hydro. But he doesn't actually have any build capacity at all. He's working just off the ACU. Whereas look at the amount of engineers that Bembel has managed to save. And that is going to be a huge advantage on the other side of things. Yes, he took a little bit longer to kill off the Witcher's base, had fewer combative units, but still, the fact that he's got all that build capacity, which is of course the third resource, that will allow him to build up an awful lot quicker once he starts to get his eco going. And of course, you get your eco going so much quicker on a base trade than you would at the start of the game, because you have the remains of your opponent's base that you are scooping up as you go. The Witcher can only build one thing, one factory, and then scoop if he needs mass. And of course, once he has land factories out, then he can start to get more engineers out. But that initial advantage, that acceleration in towards the mid-game, that momentum will be with Bembel. Let's take a look at scooped mass over the course of this one. So 8,000 there for Bembel, 6,800 there for the Witcher. Remember, he was ahead by about 1,000 odd early on. He got more than his fair share of the mass that was strewn in the center of the map. Mass totals should be relatively even between the two bases, so ultimately, assuming they scoop everything, you would expect it to even out, and that advantage of the center mass that was gained to be with Bembel. Combat scout there, discovering the two strikers that were heading down to that corner of the map, looking for a couple of easy mechs kills. Ilshiva comes in and says no thank you. But now it is Bembel who has control of the larger portion of the map. He has cloaked up Selens kicking around. Has that top plateau, and that is all walled off. Interesting to see he hasn't gone straight back to airplay. He's now going all land for this one. And I'm talking nonsense. There is the air factory. I expected that to be adjacent to the hydro, being as the aircraft requiring more power, of course. But now we're seeing an operational air factory from the Witcher. That's not surprising at all. He has suffered greatly at the hands of Bembel's T1 bomber spam throughout the first 15-20 minutes of this match. Fortunately for him, none of those survived, because that would have been an absolute death sentence there and then for the Witcher. At the base trade, he would never have been able to get going. Quick capture there, top left from the Witcher. Going to steal one of Bembel's mexes. now all the momentum seems to be with Bembel. We'll take a look at the direct fire T1s, 25 FAMs.
Commander under attack.
We've got 29 Zuis and 1 Ilsheva. The Witcher, by contrast, on 18 strikers and 2 pillars. And Bembel's ACU with a gun upgrade as well. The Witcher is also getting an upgrade, and there that finishes. So both of these guys have gun on their ACU. And sensing this is a potential game ender right here and now, Bembel launches a pretty hefty attack with his forces. That lead T1 factory, the Witcher going down. Funnily enough, the interceptors that have been built there for the Witcher with nothing to do. There are no T1 bombers out for Bembel. As a result, those interceptors just hovering near Bembel's forces, taking a huge amount of mobile T1 anti-air fire. Then they probably get blacked out of the sky by Bembel's inties, which are brought in. Build capacity ordered to create a line of T1 PDs, trying to cut off this portion of the map from any potential advance from the Witcher. Witcher, of course, with his gun upgrade, Zeph Am, giving it significant range advantage.
Commander under attack.
And the accelerator for Bembel, not giving it the range, but giving it the rate of fire. And the Witcher definitely coming off worse in this exchange because of the rate of fire. Backing up towards the base now, into the red, 2,500 HP, and falling. Bembel with a healthy 7,000 on his. The Witcher throwing out the GGs, essentially announcing his intention to send it into Guardcast. And to that, we are eternally thankful. Boom, baby! The Witcher capitulates at 27 minutes under a barrage of accelerated Seraphim ACU firepower. What an amusing little Theta Passage game that was. Always nice to see a base trade. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. As always, more to come from me in the future. But in the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.